Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor and his friends give you sports betting tips. I am your host, Professor Sides, and I've built a set of mathematical models named Sideline that predict various sports outcomes. You'll hear more about the model during the course of this episode, set to cover all 7 Major League Baseball games scheduled to be played on Thursday, June 1st, 2023. Get you in here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for some explanations and community rules. Remember, if you're interested in projections and picks on every single game, sign up on Dub Club today. We're giving you like a sneak peek of that, basically. We're covering every game on here, but for most days, if you want information about the other games, I have an extra video where we'll talk about that and all the picks and all the A-plus plays today. All that stuff's on Dub Club. Little sneak peek today with only 7 games on the slate. So again, if you want to sign up for that, that link is in the show description. Remember that sports are unpredictable, so the discussion on this show projects a typical game, does not try to forecast it to a T, as that would be a foolish and impossible goal. We take a long-term view on here. Don't get distracted when the Guardians decide they're going to score 11 runs in a game, which we all thought was literally impossible, but lo and behold, it is happening as we speak. That's hard to foresee ahead of time, but sometimes that stuff happens. In other words, please understand that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I'd like to say we'll be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Because Jared, thankfully for us, we are on the Guardians as they score 11 runs, one of the A-grade plays. Didn't think I'd see the day.
No, and we also got a big plus odds winner with the A's against the Braves earlier this week. So I mean, if the Guardians are going to come through for us and the A's are going to come through for us this week, I don't know if that's happened at all this season, because the A's in general haven't come through for us very much this season.
Or the sky is falling, one of the two. The A's, they came through for us on opening day. I'll never forget that. Like, of all the season, I will never forget us taking the A's against Ohtani on opening day.
Yeah, that
and winning.
Funny. And classically, the Angels bullpen blowing a great Ohtani start, of course.
Like, a tale as old as time. Because, Jared, we're covering games for June. It's
oh my God.
Where did time go?
I have no idea. I didn't realize that. I feel different now.
Yeah. I don't know. Let that sink in, people. Jude is here. Last thing I wanted to get to you real quick. Wednesday so far during the day, it's been more down than up for sure. After we had a really good Monday and a really good Tuesday, we kind of talk about the ups and downs, and it's just always good when we can get you on here or Jake on here, every week or so, and just talk about the ups and downs and just remind everybody it's just kind of part of it, and how we keep a good perspective. Because personally, I'm looking at, we had such a great day Monday and Tuesday, and the bankroll's rising. The Wednesday, it starts to not look as good, and you get a little discouraged. You go, how do you keep that positive mindset where you're like, hey, but look at what we've done overall? Do you look at it by week or by how do you kind of deal with the ups and downs?
Yeah. I mean, I get enjoyment from watching the games, having a little skin in the game. And so, as long as I'm just not losing everything that I have, which the good thing about baseball is that is almost impossible. There are so many games that the laws of averages, kind of usually play out here. So, honestly, try not to focus on the winning and losing. That's just me personally. But the thing is that baseball has been profitable in the wrong way. I've got multiple seasons now of using your data that you have and the information that you provide to say, hey, in the long run, this is going to work out. So I don't get too upset about down weeks. Even in baseball, you can definitely have like a down month, a down 6 weeks or something. That's not abnormal. But know that you're probably going to have a good, 6 to 8 weeks coming out of that. So I just focus on the long game. I don't get caught up in short time frames. But again, like you just said, somehow it's been 2 months already. I have no idea how.
I mean, I guess if you're not focused on the ins and out like that, time flies, right? When you're
it does
when you're having fun. Law of large numbers there is, I think, what you're referring to. My statistics students, some of them should know the definition of that, and most of them probably don't. That's the way it goes. But we've got, again, we're going to cover every game here today for you, all 7 of them for this Thursday. But before we get to that, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free. And if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content. This channel provides away scale picks, A-grade money line plays will return us 4 units as the risk plus win will equal 4. So that way we risk proportionally more on favorites and dogs. B-grade plays will return 3 units. Totals are flat bet to win 1 unless they're plus odds, and then they're flat bet to risk 1. Let's get to it. As always, with the scaling with the picks, take what you like and leave the rest. One 7 p.m. Eastern, Brewers at the Blue Jays. Blue Jays, according to Sideline, should be a minus 225 favorite. So minus 189 is an A grade play for us. This is Kevin Gausman versus Freddie Peralta. Peralta looked pretty good. I believe his last start out, but for the season still has a 4.64 ERA, and the underlying metrics, so that's pretty accurate. I think he's above average, but not by a ton. Kevin Gausman, on the other hand, y'all have heard me talk about him. I think this guy's fantastic. 3.03 ERA. Underlying metrics say maybe even should be a little bit better. One of the top 10 pitchers in baseball. Blue Jays offense, fantastic. Brewers offense, up and down, and at this point, maybe a little bit more down, especially with Willy Adames out, at least for the foreseeable future. So the Blue Jays here should be big favorites. Model says bigger favorites than they are, so minus 189 gets us that A grade. Also going to play the under 8.5. Model says 8.2. I'm playing under 8.5, partially because we're getting basically even money on it. If you have to lay any reasonable odds, I don't really like the under 8.5. If I'm laying reasonable odds, I'd rather or laying unreasonable odds, I should say. I'd rather have under 9, but around even money, I think under 8.5 is a pretty solid play. So I got both of those there. Roof in Toronto, I'm projecting it to be open. It should be mid-70s to start, upper 70s to close. They might close it. It's really a tweener case. If it does close, the projected total will go down even more because it should cool off just a little bit. It'll be a little bit of a warmer day if they keep the roof open. Cousin Jared, Blue Jays under, which one do you like more? Or are you going to throw a curveball at me and say Brewers team total under?
Oh, man. So first of all, the Brewers, a team that has played better this season than I anticipated, but like you mentioned, the offense coming back to earth a little bit here as of recent. Because of that, I would prefer to go with the Blue Jays here when you can get Kevin Gausman. I mean, it's ad nauseum, things that I've said on this show multiple times that I've been on here. Number one, A plays have done well. So Blue Jays, A grade. You should almost blindly tail it at this point. But then looking at the pitching matchup here, if I can back Gausman at about 2 standard deviations better than Freddie Peralta, I think that is a pretty good play. I would rather just kind of isolate that matchup and think that the Blue Jays are going to have a really big advantage in the first half of the game while Gausman's in, and not really worry about how many runs are scored. I just think that Gausman at home is too much for the Brewers here.
Yeah, I do not disagree with that. Especially with the Brewers, again, projection right now being projected to be below average, sets up for them to be a tough day to score runs. Of course, the Blue Jays, you expect to score runs off anybody. So, again, Peralta's not bad, but this Blue Jays offense is really good. So, Blue Jays minus 189 gets an A grade from the model. Also at 1 p.m. Eastern, Phillies at the Mets. Going to take the Mets at minus 165. That's a B grade pick. Model says it should be Mets minus 178, minus 160. Would be your A grade threshold. So you're 1 nickel away from that there. Max Scherzer versus Taijuan Walker. Scherzer's done okay this season, 3.54 ERA, but the advanced metrics are a little bit more concerning on him. He's still good either way, but you do have to wonder, exactly how good he is at this point in his career, if he's gone from great to just good, maybe. Taijuan Walker, I don't think is very good. He's another guy I think had a decent start last time out, very surprising, but a 5.57 ERA in the course of the season. Underlying metrics say it should be in the low 5s. Another big pitching discrepancy here. The difference is that the Mets offense is better than the Phillies offense, but only by a little bit versus the Blue Jays and Brewers, which is a massive discrepancy there. Mets bullpen, probably a little better than the Phillies, but neither bullpen is very good. But again, minus 165, decent play, B grade value, worth an investment, in my opinion. Also going to take the over 8.5 at minus 120. Projected total is 9.3. In New York, it should be mid 70s. Wind blowing out at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Same question, because Jared, do you like the Mets at minus 165 or the over 8.5? Laying a little juice there. Which one's more exciting to you?
I think similar to the first game, I'm going to have to go with the Mets there as well. It's like you said, minus 165. We're not too far away from an A grade there if it get down to 160. So definitely a situation where you shop around, especially as more books are coming out with lines here. Maybe you can grab something that would be considered an A grade play. Gosh, the Mets, every time I think they turn around, they go on a losing streak. And every time I think that they put a fork in them, they win 5 games in a row. I cannot figure this team out for the life of me. I tend to, on Scherzer, just because of the track record, I'm going to think that he's going to get it together. I would not be shocked here. You talk about going into June as we get into the summer, he strings together, 5 or 6 really good starts in a row. Just based on his history, I want to back Scherzer here. A B grade that is close to an A grade, so I think there's maybe a little additional value there, maybe more so than just a normal B grade pick. It's close to a C grade or something. So I like the Mets here as well.
Yeah, and it's a great point you mentioned with the Mets. I feel like the Phillies are in the same boat, right? I feel like both of these teams, every time you feel like you've got them figured out, they go off and start doing the exact opposite.
Yep.
It feels like maybe at the end of the summer, when we get towards fall, we'll be able to look back and kind of say, what was the real version of these teams. But they've definitely been a little Jekyll and Hyde, and probably because the bullpens are so bad. The Phillies bullpen last year turned into a strength. They had arms upon arms upon arms, and this year they don't. And the Mets, losing Diaz hurt a lot, but they also had a lot of depth last year. They lost a couple of those guys to free agency, and of course losing Diaz, who last year was probably the best reliever in baseball, also hurts. So yeah, and I think that's probably why they've kind of been on these runs, because when your bullpen's that shaky, every game is a loss waiting to happen, it seems like. And so when these teams can get good bullpen action, they they do well, and otherwise they don't. So but yeah, big starting pitcher discrepancy here. If you wanted to avoid the bullpen, you can take the first 5. Again, without a model looking at that, I'm not really sure what the right price is to play there. You have more variability on 5 innings, so it's things to consider. You're playing in a market that typically has more juice in it. So, there's some downsides to that first 5 market. The upside is you avoid the bullpen. So there's kind of, a little bit of risk and reward there if that's a market you want to enter into. I'm just going to stick to full games personally here and stick to the minus 165. Also, 1 p.m., Marlins will host the Padres in that series finale. You can take the Marlins at plus 104 as a B grade model. Says basically a coin toss game, 50-50. So plus odds on either side would be exciting. Plus 104 on the Marlins, pretty good. Plus 112 would get you to an A grade. So we're almost a full dime away from that one. Projected total in this one is 8.2. I'm seeing 8 out there in the market. So I think it's a pretty well priced total. Cousin Jared, I'm not sure I'm really qualified. Maybe I'm either over or under qualified to talk about this game. I'm not sure which one. Joe Musgrove and Jesus Luzardo, 2 players I roster in fantasy. So, maybe I'm looking at this through rose-colored glasses. I don't really know. Musgrove had the toe issue and has looked pretty terrible for most of the season. Last start or 2, maybe getting it together. Underlying metrics are more promising, but the first several starts from him was rough. Marlins offense below average. If Musgrove is really finally healthy and getting rolling, you assume he can do well. But Luzardo's been good all season and has pitched really well since coming over from Oakland. 3.67 ERA. Advanced metrics say that's pretty spot on. And again, the Padres being a little bit more left-handed heavy, their offense gets a ding facing a lefty in Luzardo. Marlins bullpen better than the Padres bullpen. Of course, almost every team is, it feels like. Cousin Jared, Marlins plus odds. Why are you liking that?
Yeah. Let the record show. I believe one of those Musgrove starts was the Mexico City game. Am I correct in saying that? So you have to take that into consideration when you're looking at his metrics, because Mexico City was something.
That was bonkers,
that was just insane. So,
and even the second game that had fewer runs still had like a ton of base runners. It just seemed like every inning ended with like a double play or like a line drive out or something. I mean, there were just base runners galore in both of those games.
Yeah. So Musgrove has definitely pitched better as of late, but I'm still looking at, and his FIP is almost 5. His hits per 9 is like 10. Like he hasn't been the Joe Musgrove that I expected this year. And I'm looking at the grade that Sideline gives him. And so I have to ask you, how much of that grade that he has this year is based off last year? And how much of that is based on what he's done so far this year?
Oh, most of it's based off of last year. Yeah. I mean, I could dig into the programming and try to figure out a percentage for each pitcher. But if I had to guess off the top of my head, I'd say it's probably about 80% last year and 20% this year.
Okay. So he just hasn't performed what I expected. I think you could probably knock him up, increase his pitcher rating there a few points, and it's probably not inaccurate for what he has done this season. And I think there's actually a bigger edge on the Marlins than what this number would indicate. So I like the Marlins here a lot. If you can get them anything above even odds, anything plus odds, I think it is a good play. for some reason, I've spent a lot of time talking about like the Cardinals and the Padres this year and how bad the NL Central is and some of the bad teams. The Cardinals and the Mets, about how bad they've been. I have somehow like not talked about how bad that the Padres have been and how disappointing they have been this season. And I don't know at what point we're going to be like, they just kind of are who they are. I think we're all kind of waiting for there to be this offensive explosion where there's been at least, I know last count I saw, there was like 23 games this season where they scored 3 runs or less. And so the offense, you would expect to carry it. It has had times where they just haven't come through. And so I think against the Marlins, you could easily see that going against a guy like Luzardo. So Marlins, I like them a lot, especially if you can get them plus odds. I think they're a great play.
Yeah, for a struggling offense like the Padres, facing the Marlins isn't what you want to do because they just have so many good arms.
Yep.
It's no offense, it seems like, but lots of pitching. The Padres, I believe I saw a stat the other day, their batting average with runners in scoring position, and obviously batting average is not a great stat, but just as a reference point, it was like, 210 or something ridiculous. The point being, they have not hit well when they've had guys on. The theory, the logic, all the historical evidence that we have would say that that's just a random thing, that guys aren't just magically better or worse in those situations, that if they were, then they need to be better all the time because they are leaving millions of dollars on the table. Right. And so we don't really have any evidence that there's a clutch factor that these Padres don't have. The evidence would just suggest it's bad luck, but the bad luck keeps happening. So, I mean, I think it's exactly to your question, like, when is it going to happen? And obviously it's not, you don't expect a breakout this series against the Marlins, again, with all the arms they've got. Right. But yeah, you have to think June, July, at some point, this offense is going to explode, but it just hasn't happened yet. And I think that's part of the big thing is they're getting guys on base. They just aren't getting them in. And again, all the evidence we have would suggest that that's going to come around. It's just, we keep waiting and it hasn't happened yet. So I don't know, maybe eventually. I think at some point there's got to be some value back in the Padres. It's just like, I keep waiting for it. It hasn't happened a ton. We haven't backed them a lot.
Not yet.
Not yet. Maybe I don't know. Maybe next week we can look back to that. 3:40 p.m. Eastern, last afternoon game here of the day for you on Thursday. Rockies at the Diamondbacks. Kind of lather, rinse, repeat what we talked about on the show for Wednesday's game. Who the heck knows? 2 terrible pitchers, Chase Anderson, Zach Davies. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Is this going to be a baseball game that's going to be played? There, I'm stealing your line, cousin Jared. Model says Diamondbacks minus 154. So we're taking the Rockies at plus 161. Diamondbacks are at home. They should be favored, but I just think they're favored by too much. I don't think they're probably as good as they're being priced. I don't think Zach Davies is as good as he's being priced, but I don't love backing the Rockies either. So it's kind of just sprinkling a little bit on the Rockies at big plus odds and just saying baseball's a weird sport and maybe they pull it off. I don't know. It's going to be a hot day. Roof should be closed. Projected total is 9.6. I'm not going over 10. This is a high variance game. And we usually talk about high variance games at Coors because of that elevation. This is a high variance game because with these pitchers, I could really see this being, 6-3, 5-3 staying under, or I could see it being, 8-8 in the 8th inning and it just being a who the heck knows kind of game because I think both these teams are going to be able to hit a little bit. But I have no faith in any of these pitchers, which is kind of why we're on the Rockies here. Cause I just can't in good conscience lay 175 with Zach Davies. I'm sorry.
That's what I was going to say. If you're on the Rockies in this game, this is a play against Zach Davies, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he might pitch well. The Rockies' offense isn't great necessarily, but he hasn't looked good so far. Model doesn't like him, and there's really no reason to have confidence in him. Cousin Jared, there will be a time of the day where this is the only game on. So there's that.
Yeah, so I have nothing to say about this game. I want to go back to the Padres real quick. Their team BABIP is 267. The league average is 300. So you would think that the offense will come around at some point. So maybe we want to be ahead of that. Maybe we should be thinking we need to be on the Padres because that will turn around. Anyway, I thought that was an interesting data point. I got to thinking, you mentioned their batting average with runners in scoring position. That made me think their BABIP is probably just low overall, and it is. So
it is. And I back to the Padres because whatever, we're here. But I completely agree with you. I have been thinking this for the last week now in my head. I think I mentioned on a show previously. I was like, the Padres are going to have some value here at some point. Like, and I want to be out ahead of it. But the number, they're not being it's almost like everybody else is with us. I think that's the problem is everybody else is thinking the same thing. And so that's really where it is about sports betting is it's not about, and this is why a lot of times the people who know the games really well are terrible sports bettors because they know these things. Absolutely. But they aren't looking at them relative to how the market is viewing them. Right. And that's the thing is I think the market is pricing the Padres like it's for sure coming around. And I'm like, I absolutely agree with it. But if you're pricing it like that, I can't get on it. If you are pricing it like it's never going to come around, oh, sure, I'll be on that side. I'll take the value. But it's like it's being priced that way, unfortunately. So, moving on from the NL West. Reds at the Red Sox, 7 p.m. Eastern. With regards to the side, it's priced pretty well right now, in my opinion. Model says Red Sox minus 159. Closest value pick would be the Red Sox minus 162. It's a little steep, though. We talk about this Reds offense can hit a lefty, and so I'm not really dying to back Chris Sale at a price like that. 4.72 ERA in the season. Underlying metrics say he's been a little bit unlucky, but Reds hitting the lefty and Sale not being great this season, and maybe on the down part of his career. Like I said, I'm just not dying to lay minus 162 with the Red Sox. So I'm holding off on the side instead and going to go with the over 9. A model is projecting 10.5 in this game, and it's not really because the pitching. We're on the over on Wednesday because the pitching is terrible. We're on the over on Thursday. Hunter Green's a pretty good pitcher, and the model thinks both these guys are decently above average. The issue is that Fenway being such a hitter's park, and it's going to be a hot night. We're going to start off over 80 degrees, close in the 70s, and the wind blowing out at almost 10 miles an hour is going to make this park play even smaller than it already does. Again, the Reds getting that boost facing a lefty, the Red Sox offense being above average, getting a boost facing a righty, just kind of plays into the hands of these starters are good, but I just don't see them not giving up runs. I love this over 9 here. Cousin Jerry, tell us more.
Okay, yeah. So all those things that you mentioned, those are all really great reasons. You mentioned this is not because of the pitching. However, I will mention that both of these pitchers are very similar to me in that obviously electric stuff, good pitchers, both have a tendency to have a few walks now and then, and it's just going to take one bad pitch in the wrong location after you give up a couple of walks and the ball's going to be flying out. Yep. And so I think that's more of the issue, not necessarily that the pitchers aren't good, but that they're both prone to walks, and then they give up one home run and boom, like it's over, and you're going to be
three runs in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And so then you're going to be able to easily go over 9. This is right up there with the Marlins for me. Really like this play a lot, the over 9. I think there's too much value here. I feel like we've seen too many Chris Sale games at Fenway Park this season that have gone flying over the total. And I think this is just going to be another one of those. And you mentioned your affinity for a couple of the starting pitchers earlier. I roster Hunter Green, and just unbelievably frustrating. So many Ks, also some walks, and couldn't get a win to save his life, honestly. Yeah. So, I think there's going to be a lot of runs in this one.
Yeah, and both these guys play in pretty hitter-friendly ballparks, which makes their underlying metrics look better, but it means they're going to allow runs, and that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about what's going to happen in this game with regards to strikeouts. We're talking about our run's going to happen at Fenway. Yeah. In this condition, runs are going to happen. So, I think the underlying metrics part is to kind of think about it from a park neutral standpoint and a weather neutral standpoint and an opposition neutral standpoint, and kind of look at it and say, what is your bar for average? And I think that's the thing is that in these conditions with these teams and this ballpark and this weather, a good start might be 6 innings and 3 runs. And you hear that and you say 6 innings and 3 runs is not a good start. In these conditions, it might actually be. We just need to adjust the bar. It's very different than, if you're playing in, 40-degree weather in Minnesota or 40-degree weather at Wrigley Field with the wind blowing in, right? 6 and 3 is terrible in that situation. That situation, a good start's 8 innings, 1 run, right? So it's like you just have to change your bar. And I think that's the thing here is that both these guys are good. Their underlying metrics are good, but the bar is going to be really hard to have what you think of as a traditionally good start because, like you said, just a walk and then one bad pitch and boom, 2 runs right there. And it's like you didn't even really do anything. You gave up 2 runs. Push protection on the 9 is great. I love over 9. Don't have the line of juice, even better. So a pretty solid pick there in that one. And then here, 7:40 p.m. Eastern, A+ play day. Remember, if you want the A+ play the day every day, sign up on Dub Club. That link is in the show description. Cost under $1 per day. We're still over a 10% ROI on the season on these. Going to back the Twins here for Thursday's play of the day at minus 125. Sideline says it should be Twins minus 169. I mean, do I need to say anything else?
Nice.
Yeah. Pablo Lopez versus Tanner Bibby. Bibby's looked really good lately. Absolutely. I think he's a solid pitcher. He's going in the right direction as a young guy, but I still love Pablo Lopez. I think he's the better pitcher. Twins offense better than the Guardians offense. Guardians have used up all their runs for the month of June here, I think, on May 31st. So Guardians are able to score against Baltimore in a bullpen game, throwing, Austin Voth, right? Guardians score off of that. I don't think they're going to have a lot of luck scoring off of Pablo Lopez, who's a really good starter. Weather-wise, we're going to be around 80 degrees for this one. Wind blowing a little in, a little across. Projected total 7.6. So I'm going to go under 8 on this one. Like I said, I think Bibby's a solid pitcher. I don't think the Twins are going to score 9 runs off of Bibby, and I don't think the Guardians are going to score a lot off Pablo. I think this should be priced at 7.5. That'd be a lot tougher of a decision to make, but under 8 I'm playing, as well as, of course, the Twins, putting a lot of money on that one. I think it's pretty solid investment. Because, Jared, what do you think?
I mean, I love this play. This is my favorite play of the day. If I can get, laying relatively short odds against the Guardians, I mean, why would one not do that based on what you've seen for most of the month of May from the Guardians? Just looking at some of the statistics, I was, since we talked about the Padres BABIP, I had to go see what the Guardians BABIP was, because if there was anybody that was worse than the Padres, you would have to think that it would be the Guardians. And they actually are worse. 272 is their BABIP. But the thing is I'm not confident that the Guardians BABIP is going to turn around. They just seem like they are not very good, especially when you look at Jose Ramirez, who obviously is wonderful. When you take him away, which he's playing in this game, but I'm just saying the rest of what they have around him is just not good offensively. I mean, he has so little support in that lineup. I love the Twins here. I think this is priced way too short. And anytime I can get a chance to lay short odds against an offense that's been as bad as the Guardians, I'm going to take it every time.
Against a good pitcher. Obviously, unlike Wednesday with Orioles situation. Josh Naylor's good for a home run every so often, for sure. Mm-hmm. Josh Bell, what happened to him? I feel like...
That's a good question.
I feel like he was a little bit of a disappointment for the Padres last year, coming back to them, of course, and just kind of fell off the face of the planet from what was supposed to be one of the hot commodities. And I feel like, there was a time when he was going to hit 45, 50 home runs every year, and just doesn't seem to be doing what they need him to do. For they brought him in to really bolster that offense. The offense had issues last year. Yeah. And he hasn't really helped them out any.
According to win probability added, he is the 3rd worst hitter on the team.
I mean, that's not what they paying him to do. That's for sure. That's what you expect from your catcher, right? Not your one of your big boppers. Wrapping us up here, 8:10 p.m. Eastern, Angels at Astros. And you got to remember, every game is covered on a video if you're with us over on Dub Club with the newly added study hall segment. Today I'm covering every game for you, but if you want to hear analysis on every single game, 7 or 6 days a week, sign up on Dub Club. That link's in the show description to get you all the games here. We're going to talk about this one. No line out right now on this one. The Astros have not confirmed Framber Valdez. I'm not really sure why that is, but he hasn't been confirmed. He's the projected starter according to Fangraphs. Assuming it is Framber against Reed Detmers, a pair of lefties here. 2 above average offenses, but Detmers is probably better than his 4.93 ERA. Advanced metrics say it should be in the mid 3s. But Framber Valdez has all of a sudden risen to the 3rd best starting pitcher in, according to Sideline. No Astros bias in that. The model just loves what he's done this year, loves what he did last year. The question that I have for you, Cousin Jared, is at what number are you playing the Astros? Are you looking at the run line? Where is your head at? Model says it should be minus 229, and that an A grade would be minus 204. So I'm just kind of curious your take on how you're approaching this game, assuming it is these pitchers when lines come out.
Yeah, I think that I would play the Astros anywhere about minus 220 or better, so minus 210, something like that. I think that's the number to be on the Astros. I don't think I want any part of the Angels in this one. I mean, gosh, it would have to be, it said A grade plus. Obviously, if it was plus 260, I would back the Angels, but man, it would almost have to be an A grade for me to back them. The Astros have been playing really well at home as of recently. And you mentioned, I mean, heck, Jose Abreu's hitting home runs now. So anything is possible. Although I would caution you that the Astros got to play the A's this past weekend. So that could artificially inflate their offensive production. But I think Altuve being back is also, helping in that. So I hope that there's value on the Astros here. I would play them anything 220 or better. It's almost would have to be an A grade to fade Fromber. A grade on the Angels side for me to fade Fromber at this point.
Yeah. Playing the A's has not artificially inflated the Brave statistics. I'll tell you that much. So,
touche.
Although I feel like if Jake was here, that would be a better little burn. But
yes.
I have what I have to work with. But yeah, you're absolutely right. With regards to the Astros playing well as of late, part of that being Jose Altuve, of course. If they could ever get Michael Brantley healthy as well, then this becomes one of the better offenses in baseball. As it is, it's still a good, very good, not great. I think as it's currently constructed. But I'm with you. I need an A grade play to fade Fromber, so I'd be looking at, like you said, plus 260 would be the number. To back the Angels. I don't think we're going to see that number because I think the Angels, their offense is good enough, and I think they're going to get enough respect. And Reed Detmers isn't a bad pitcher. Don't let that ERA fool you.
Right.
But I'm kind of like you. I'm thinking I'm probably playing it more if it's like minus 225, even though I might go into the minus 220s. Your threshold a little bit lower than that. How do you feel about run line for home teams? Is that something that you ever dabble in, that you kind of like look at on these big numbers, or you just kind of roll with it, just say, I'm going to stick to the money line and not mess with the run lines?
I would have to see a total at like 10 or 11. Like I would have to see a double digit total on a game before I would feel comfortable taking the run line. That's just me personally. I know that your analysis has said it's roughly the same in most scenarios.
Most of the time.
In most of the time, it's the same. I just feel better if I have a team to win the game outright, not worry about how much they win it by. But again, I will amend that if we got a double-digit total and the ball's just flying out. Like, for example, any of the Mexico City games. I know that's the most extreme example, but just one case. Like, sure, lay 1.5. Who cares?
Or in Coors, or in the summer at Fenway, summer in Cincinnati, right?
Cincinnati,
And I personally, I don't know if you think of it this way. I like to think of it too, like kind of like playing blackjack, right? That, you got to hit, if you're going to hit 16 on a 10, you just do it, don't mix and match. Not that it really changes anything from a mathematics standpoint. It's just more of you're going to kick yourself when you make the wrong decision too many times. And so for me, I kind of look at it the same way. I don't like to play the run line because then I start second guessing myself. It's kind of just easier to just stick mostly to one thing and not have to have this, I should have done this, or I should have done this, or I could have saved this, right? The mental game of this. It's a grind, sports betting, and it's that mental thing. You got to protect against the mental mental frustrations as well that can come along with this,
Yeah, well, especially baseball where it's every day. Definitely it is a grind.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, that's all we've got then. Cousin Jared, any parting words for the viewer?
Want to know what's not a grind? College football season. So I don't know if y'all saw that the networks released their TV schedules for the first few weeks of the season. We're going to have some really great games all through the first few weeks of the season. So yeah, can't get here soon enough.
I saw that we're starting to get some week 0 numbers out there at some of the sports books. So
doesn't seem possible, but I guess it's June. So
it's June. I have no idea. I looked at those numbers. I was like, I have no idea. I saw like Vanderbilt's playing Hawaii again, I think.
Oh, God.
No words after what happened last year.
No.
But some of these numbers, I'm like, I don't even know if this is good value or not. Like that, my college football player based model is like still in its baby stages, and it's like sitting in the closet, in the dark corner getting dusty. The summer. Like.
I can't wait to lose money on Hawaii plus 38 on week 0.
I think it was like 18.5 or something. Is I think the number I saw, and I was like, I think we're really maybe expecting a lot from Hawaii. If that was maybe I missed all the number, but if so, I think we're expecting a lot from them. A lot more than what we saw last year. At the end of the year, they were playing better.
Yeah, in that case, I can't wait to lose money by laying 18.5 with Vanderbilt.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thanks for tuning into this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can install the sports betting content provided on this channel, dropped right into your feed. Be back again tomorrow with more baseball betting content. Until then, as always, best of luck. Remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.